Well, that time you guys fucking got me. We're on the highway going 60. Y'all slowed down, told me to roll down the window. I roll it down, and all of a sudden here comes this 44-ounce like big gulp, and it just hits me in the fucking face. I mean, it was like I saw it in slow motion, kind of like, I don't believe this is happening.
Welcome, everyone, to This Was The Scene, the podcast that takes a look back at the late 90s, early 2000 punk scene. I am your host, Mike Doyle. Before we start, if you want to support the podcast, you can just go to thiswasthescene.com, and there's a donate button, which will lead you to a landing page with some more information about how to do that. Thanks to everyone who's donated over the last 3.5 years. You are the fucking shit. Saturday Supercade was a pop-punk band from Cincinnati, Ohio that sounded like a happier version of Propagandhi. They put out a 7-inch and 2 full-length albums and did a bit of touring in the late 90s. I've talked to these guys a ton throughout the podcast history, especially in interviews with my other bandmates, Chris and Sean and Bettino and everyone else from Lanemeyer, because these guys were the first band that we went on tour with. So we talk a lot about that. So if you don't know who these guys are, or you don't know who my old band is, it's going to be about 2 hours of conversation about that with some other really fun stories in there. So hopefully you enjoy it. But this one was selfishly just me reminiscing with an old buddy about that time. But I think you'll still get a lot out of it from back in the day. I haven't talked to Rob in fucking like 20 years, so I was pretty stoked to get him on the Skype, and this is what we talk about. Touring with Operation Cliff Clavin, playing a show with At the Drive-In, the Smoke Bomb story, the first show we played with them on our first tour together, the van wars while on the road, the only show he played stoned, Matt Redleader's apartment, Old Wardy B, the Super Soaker story, what he thought of their last album when he wasn't in the band, parting ways with the band, Lucy Love Schroeder, how my band's relationship ended with Saturday Supercade, more about Redleader, playing in Ghoultown, and a ton more. Lastly, another way you can support the podcast is by going to drive80.com. It's my animation company, drive80.com. And I do explainer videos, I do animated GIFs, I do app and software demos. And you can check that out if you work for a tech company or a company that has a really hard time fucking explaining what you do. I do animated videos that help you do that. So I'm just going to jump right into it. Feel free to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with anyone who would love some punk rock nostalgia. With that said, let's get started.
Man, you've taken off with this thing. I was going through, and there's like dudes from Lifetime and Midtown and Less Than Jay. Let me ask, were you guys on the tour with us when we played with Kill Your Idols at a record store in Baltimore?
No.
Maybe that was our first. So that was our first tour.
Okay. Ooh, talk about that for a second. Just because you're the episode, your episode will be 2 after Andy's from Kill Your Idols. So whatever you remember, or we can work up to that if you want.
Well, that kind of sounds like a good. I was thinking about that. Sounds like a good place to start, and then I can jump back to me getting in the band and all of that. So our first tour was the summer before with y'all. I guess maybe it was 97. I think. It was just a year before ours. And so we went on tour with this band, Operation Cliff Clavin. Thinking about when we toured with them, they're like a 3-piece, and they had like this guy with them, and he's real eccentric. You know, we always got that real eccentric dude who can like fix anything, or he just keeps to himself. Well, they totally had that dude. I can't remember. I think his name was like Sam or something. And the singer of the band and the bass player, she was a girl that they were dating. And then their drummer was a guy named Frankie. And he just seemed like the young kid along on the family trip. Because, you know, he was a classic drummer, like kind of goofy, kind of getting into stuff. But they were real quiet, and they really just kept to themselves. And they were so anti everything. I mean, I'm pretty sure they were vegan, and Casey and Chip were vegan at the time too. And I remember they had this roadie with them, and, you know, we asked him, dude, is there any place to eat? We're like in Richmond, and that's where the roadie guy was from. because the band kind of really didn't want to talk to us. I don't know if they were just totally introverted or just didn't, just had nothing. They just really didn't. I mean, I'm not trying to diss. I was just saying like they had their priorities, and hanging out with us was not really on their list. So we asked the dude, like, hey, man, is there like a Taco Bell anywhere? And this is like Richmond, Virginia. The roadie guy was like, man, I don't know where any Taco Bell is. And if you want to eat a Taco Bell, that's not even vegan. Like, he was so anti like corporation. Like the whole band was like anti-corporation, anti anything that wasn't like mom and pop. Like no corporate at all. Like,
yeah, they were hardcore. They were very hardcore against like everything.
And I think it got to a point where we started like following them, but then they started leaving early before we did. And then I thought I heard a couple times that they would like steal gas because they didn't want to pay for it, because they didn't want to give like Shell or Chevron like their money or something. I mean, it was crazy like that. We were just like, who are these guys? I mean, again, I'm not dissing. If that's their core ethos, like if that's what they want to do, that's badass. I mean, that's punk rock.
Yeah.
But then we come home from that and we have a year and we're like playing. And I think we were only touring on like a 10-song like demo cassette. And then I think we actually had a 7-inch at that point, or like the only 7-inch. So a year passes and then we meet up with you guys like, oh, we're going to tour with this band Lane Meyer out of New Jersey, because I think we played a show with the dudes in Humble Beginnings. So I think that's how we got hooked up with that, because we played with Humble, as I think you referred to them as.
Yeah. Well, real quick, so what's the Kill Your Idols thing?
Okay. So we're playing with Operation Clip-Clavin, and then one of the shows was we played with Kill Your Idols. I mean, this is back in, like I said, 97. And it was at this cool, like, record store in Baltimore. And we got to meet those guys. And I just remember them having, like, they're, like, from New York, like, New York fucking city. Like, they had the accents and everything. And they were, like, tough guys, And I just remember playing with them. And I thought I got a T-shirt. I think they were the ones who had the T-shirt of the Where the Wild Things Are, if I'm not mistaken. Did you ever?
I don't know. Let me check on eBay. Maybe it's on there. Let me see. But keep telling your story.
Yeah, so that's basically I couldn't remember, like, because I know both tours with Saturday Supercade were like East Coast, and that one was obviously East Coast, and we played a show with them. So when I saw that podcast come up, I was like, oh shoot, I remember those guys. Like we played with them, and I couldn't remember which tour it was.
Was that the record store? Because Andy tells a story about they played when they got signed to Cy One Dummy, they were playing at a record store in front of like 20 kids, and that's when they got signed after us. So I don't know. I think the timeline doesn't match.
That could have been it, because I remember playing with them and they seemed like they had their shit together. And then after that, I started seeing them getting more traction and more, I was hearing about them more, because it was, with the band like name like that, it's like you recognize it. So to be honest, there was 20 people there, and 3 of them were the Saturday Supercade, and the other 4 were Operation Clip-Clavin and their roadie. So it could have, I mean, it was a small record store, but I mean, that could have been the actual show. I mean, if I may be so bold as to say it was, and they signed them and not us. So,
well, I had mentioned, so just you bringing up Operation Clip-Clavin, I had mentioned them many episodes ago, and I think I was talking about how they were, when people would ask them for their autographs, they would say, well, we want your autograph as well. So they would trade autographs for the kid's autograph who like asked them that or something like that. And I think I made a joke. It was kind of like when bands, I feel like when any bands ever talked about how they were so punk rock or whatever, it's like, when I felt like when those things were happening, they're like, well, we don't want the fame. It's like, well, then why would you record your songs? Like it kind of comes along with it, So when people are like, we don't want the spotlight, we want people really knowing us. It's like, well, obviously you kind of do, because you recorded shit and you put it out on something to sell to people. Like, so I never understood that.
Okay, so that time in like the mid, I don't even know when it started, but I just know when you grow up and you listen to like Minor Threat, Black Flag, and Fugazi, and you get mad when you see a Green Day video on MTV, because you're like, oh, dude, I had Kerplunk and it kicks ass, and now they're just a bunch of sellouts and all this stuff. And I was kind of thinking like, if you're Fugazi and you can choose how to live your life and run your shows $5 a head, which ends up being $7 because of some kind of service charge or something, that's cool. And if that's what you want to work up to, like, that's great. I'm all for it. But then on the other hand, if you're just like, dude, I want to be in this band or make a living or, still make music on my terms, but be able to put out records and CDs and T-shirts and go on tour. And then I want to tour with the bands that are bringing a lot of people to their shows because I wrote these songs and they weren't cheap to record and they're good. I want these kids to hear it. And I want to be on tour with Green Day. So that was kind of my stance on the whole thing. It's not like I wanted to, sell out, but there was this weird so if you remember, there were all these bands like Jimmy Eat World, Sam I Am. I don't think Lifetime was in that mix, but it seemed like some of these majors I think Get Up Kids were in that mix. Like these major labels were picking up all these indie bands that did pretty well on their own. Just hearing how that whole thing worked, how they put out their records and on their own, and then they get signed to this major, and then they send the major 3 songs, and the guys are like, I don't hear a hit, and they're like, send us 3 more, and then after a year, or if they're like Jimmy Eat World, they get signed to, I think, Capitol the same time that like Butthole Surfers, like Pepper came out, and something else came out. So they ended up kind of getting pushed to the back because the label was promoting like their big artists. So it was kind of like, and maybe they just ended up being a tax write-off. But then we all know Jimmy Eat World 6 years later became the biggest thing on the radio.
Yeah. In the beginning, I had I had qualms when I was 18 years old, living at home in the safety of my mom's condo with no bills, speaking my bullshit about selling out. And then when we started touring, I was like, oh yeah, I actually think it'd be nice to make money. And Josh Valhemus from Right Nenny is a guy I interviewed way back. He would always talk. He played in a ska band, so I would always make fun of him. And he wrote a song called Mr. Punk Rock. It was about me because I just gave him this spiel like a lot of times about that. He was just like, "Fuck you, dude," because he was like, "You don't even know what you're talking about." And then I changed my mind. So it was. I mean, I get it, man. I think it's cool when everyone had their ethics or their stance on things. It was more just like the preachy shit. I don't, it's like, that's what I feel like Instagram's like. When someone sits there and they're like, they write this post, it's like 5 paragraphs, and it's a photo of them staring in the distance. You're like, fuck you. Like, I don't care about listening to your bullshit ideals. And it's also stupid my ass for following you. I don't like the preachy shit. Really. I never got behind it. I never like connected with it ever.
And my thing is like, I'm a drummer, so
yeah, no one cares about you.
I know, right? I don't care. But I was like, wait a minute, you want to interview me? I didn't even talk to Chip or Casey.
Oh, hell yeah, I wanted to talk to you, man. I was so excited for this.
Because I'm the one who talks all the shit.
That's right. That's what I want to get.
So I'm a drummer, so no matter what song I'm playing, it's usually somebody else's song anyway. Like, Chip would come with an idea or a riff or whatever, and I totally write all the lyrics. And if you listen to that 7-inch that I'm on, it's pretty political. There's not like total worldly politics, but there's a song about like seeing kids. There's a song about like a anorexic girl. There's a song about
Penny's an anorexic, Tommy.
Right, that one, and then our Fuck the Police anthem.
I mean, I have the 7-inch still. I'm staring at my pile, and it's in there.
Yeah, I hung mine up. Mine's on my wall with all my others.
So let me find it real quick. So yeah, and then I want to jump back to like how you got in the scene and all that, but like real quick, I mean, we heard about you guys because of Matt Redleader, and he played us that 7-inch, which is kind of like why I wanted to bring this up. So we wanted to go on tour, and he goes, yeah, there's a band I met, and I want to sign them, and they're called Saturday Supercade. And he's like, they're kind of like musically
Propagandhi.
like Propagandhi. Yep, that was what he said. That's how he said it. Yeah.
Oh, it's there. The influence is definitely there.
Oh, totally. It's just guitar shredding. Just Chip would just shred on guitar. Yeah, actually, I'm holding it right now. This is crazy. Panos Anorectics. If I can't have it, nobody can. What's the Fuck the Police song? That's not on here.
It says 5-0 Love Song.
Oh, 5. Oh. That's it. That's the last one. And on White House Records, that just came out recently. I just interviewed Matt from Emmanuel.
Oh, wow.
Remember Emmanuel Nice?
Yeah, I saw that, and I was trying to remember.
They were we played when we played that arcade in Louisville. That we would play with those guys. So we would play with you guys. Actually, I think this might have been when you might have been out of the band because we only played a couple shows. We played the tour with you guys, and then we played when we toured through Cincinnati. We played with you guys. I think in like Sudsy Malone's.
Yeah, and I don't think I was there because I don't know how far back to go, but
Okay, well, let's structure this then. Let's go back to how you got involved in the scene. So, is that where you were taking it? Like right
yeah.
there? Okay, so let's start there. Let's go, like, because you grew up in Cincinnati, right? Or you eventually got to Cincinnati. That's where you guys were started. That's how you were in Setter Supercade.
So yeah, no short stories with me. I'm an Army brat, so I've lived overseas and all of that, and I moved to Kentucky to start seventh grade, moving from Germany. And in seventh grade, then I got my drum set, and was in band, and my mom was like, "Oh, if you get a drum set, you got to learn how to play or take lessons." I was like, "Fine, I'll be in band." So then, playing drums and being in band, and then and this is in Fort Knox, Kentucky, which is south of Louisville. We actually met up with a guy named Ryan Patterson, who is like Louisville ledge nowadays. He was in Coliseum, Black Widows. He was basically like, he was in Kendall or the Enkendals. This guy just played in, I think he started his own label, has a t-shirt company. Basically, this is all later after the facts, but I met Ryan and all these people from Elizabethtown, which is south of Louisville. And so we started putting on our own like shows. We had our own band, and we were opening up for these Louisville bands. And so I was really into like that Louisville scene around the time when like bands like Endpoint and Falling Forward, these are all these like local hardcore bands that like did there was a band called King Horse and Bush League, and we just all go to shows. No matter who was playing, we just go. So I guess on my end, I would see all these drummers and just emulate what they did. There was a band called Guilt that I was really a fan of, and they were on Victory Records. I was more into like hardcore, I guess, but then like Fugazi type stuff. A lot of Discord bands. I ended up being in like this hardcore band, and then we played a show with a band from Cincinnati called Headstall. And Casey was the bass player of Headstall. My brother goes up to Casey and says like, "Hey man, I think you guys are really good. You're from Cincinnati." And they're like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Well, my brother was the drummer of the band before you. He's moving up there. He's not going to know anybody. Maybe y'all could show him the scene and whatever." And they were like, "Well, we're not really a fan of our drummer. He kind of doesn't fit the mold." And because he was older and he didn't have a double bass pedal. So they were like, "Oh, your brother, yeah, he works. He'll fit the perfect, Basically, it was northern Kentucky, so just 20 minutes south of Cincinnati, and finished high school. And I was playing in Headstall with Casey, and then Chip was in another band, kind of more like emo type band. Casey left Headstall, and then Chip's band broke up, and they wanted to start like this pop punk band, and they, of course, asked me to play. And at first it was going to be kind of like a, we had our first song we wrote was very Texas is the Reason-esque, like kind of not punk rock, but kind of like upbeat tempo. And I was like, cool, I can dig this. And then the rest, it just became like super fast, like Propagandhi style, Fat Record style songs.
So were you prepared for that? Like, I mean, as a drummer to go from slow Texas the Reason, just straight up, just, 4/4, I guess, is that 4/4 Texas the Reason, or it's like 6/8 kind of shit, and then you go from that to like Propagandhi style faster stuff. Like, was that a shock to you, or you're like, no, I can handle this?
Well, yeah, I know, because I mean, I'm a metalhead. Like I grew up listening to like Slayer and Anthrax and Metallica and the Big Four. Yeah. So playing it's it's the same beat. Some of these metal songs is almost the same as like some of these punk rock songs, as a drummer. So I guess if you're well versed in like old school metal, like thrash metal, then it's the same. To me, it's the same.
Yeah.
Just play fast and loud and just go for it. And just from growing up listening to an eclectic, because I guess when I grew up, being a drummer, I was like, man, this is the only thing I know how to do. So I'm going to do what I can to be, I don't want to say the best, but I'm gonna strive to be the best. So I listened to every Motley Crue record, every Slayer, every old school Metallica. Like I said, all the Discord stuff. I was really influenced with Brandon Canty from Fugazi, and even like Minor Threat stuff. Like when I was in other bands, we cover Minor Threat, and that's like got that fast, like almost super fast, like punk rock beat where it's almost wheels off. So yeah, and then I was gonna, like, Chip he would make me mixtapes, and it had like just all these basically songs from like Fat Records comps, just everything from like Good Riddance to No Effects, Propagandhi, Bracket, Jawbreaker. And I'd heard of Jawbreaker before, and listened to him before, but he'd send me more. I'd have all these mixtapes, and I'd just listen to them nonstop to kind of get the feel of what is going to be asked for from me, and just kind of get the vibe and kind of get where he was coming from. And so, of course, I bought How to Clean Everything and played along to every song, and just kind of got their niche of how it's really tight but fast and precise, simple stops and double bass hits. So yeah, that's how I pretty much got versed in that. So we started playing together. It was kind of weird because Cincinnati has a good punk scene, but they had a more like dirty punk scene. And when we got up there, we were like these clean cut guys who play like this fast, like punk rock. It was like, it's not that they didn't like us. They just didn't know how really to get us, because they were more like old school punk rock, and we were more like the Second Coming, the new school stuff. So it's kind of like we played shows with like some of these older bands, and I don't know if they really knew how to take us. And then we were all, I don't want to say like emo kids, but emo like hardcore kids. So when it was Jimmy Eat World and the Promise Ring came to Cincinnati, we were like, we want to play with them. Even though we don't sound like them at all, but we're like, we want on that show. And it was the same when Jets to Brazil and the Promise Ring came. We're like, I mean, we don't sound anything like Jets to Brazil. We sound like Propagandhi, but we love Blake and Jawbreaker and all that. So you see what I'm saying? Like, it hadn't really broke quite yet on our local level, bands like us.
Yeah, I could see that too. Cincinnati, I never like felt. Louisville was great when we played there. There was like that, or the Quad in Indiana. Remember that one? Like the kids would come out of the woodwork for that. But in Cincinnati, it was really, the only thing I remember was Sudsy Malone's. Like, I don't remember. There was a club across the street for the bigger shows or something like that.
Yeah, Bogarts.
That was it. But it wasn't like, it didn't feel like, I don't know. I never like got the vibe there that there was this big scene.
Yeah, so the Louisville scene, and that's why I was kind of trying to talk about that a little bit. There's something about that town. It's a small town, but for some reason, it has this big underground, like punk, indie, emo conglomerate scene. That's what I said when we would go to shows. We'd go because it was fun. It was always packed. And it was like these bands that were good, and they had records. And we're like, man, this band has a record. And everyone was so easy to talk to. You never thought anyone was like a rock star, even though like you loved their band, and you're sitting there like patting your chest, doing the emo dance as they're breaking into their halftime emo part. And you're like, fuck yeah, I love these guys. And they're like, but wait, you can talk to them. It seems it's not like Axl Rose or like Vince Neil, where you'll never get to talk to. So yeah, that Louisville scene, I think it started earlier and it became bigger because some of the bands that they had were generating more of an impact, I guess, around the Louisville area. I take a lot of pride being technically from Louisville, and like I said, and going to see bands every weekend or every other weekend at this place, The Machine, or at this other place called Tooligans, all up and down Bardstown Road. That's where I realized, okay, you got to have your snare drums got to sound like this. You got to crack it. You got to make it loud. You got to play. Like, these drummers are loud. I want to be like them. I want to be in one of these bands, Then moving to Cincinnati, the scene, I don't know how it was before I got there, but it seemed like when I got there, it was kind of maybe a rebirth. There were like older, like punk rock bands that were doing well. And then there were like newer bands, like hardcore band, like the band I was in, Headstall, and then Saturday Supercade, that were it was kind of up to us. Like, we were the ones in our circle, were the ones who started putting on our own shows. So it kind of became our own crowd.
Where would you put them on? Like, did you guys put them on? It seemed like they were Again, in like Cincinnati and all that, it seemed like there was just clubs. Like I don't remember ever playing like a Legion Hall.
Oh, well, I was just going to say there was a guy. So there's an area in Cincinnati called Norwood, and it's like right in the middle. There's like a group of brothers. One of them, the oldest, was Steve Carr, and he put on a bunch of shows at the Norwood Legion Hall. And one of those shows happened to be Saturday Supercade with Knapsack and at the drive-in.
Whoa.
Yeah. And here we are. We're like, so we're playing with Knapsack. That's badass. And like, who's this at the drive-in band? I don't know. I read a review. Somebody said they sound like Rage Against the Machine mixed with somebody else. And they're from Texas. And they were crazy. And Cedric's jumping around it was like a basketball gym. And Cedric's jumping around, going back and forth. And at one point he had like a fold-out chair, and he was like riding it like a. I mean, you know, like riding it like a bull, I guess. It's like, I guess that's how they do it in Texas. So I was like, damn, this band is crazy. They're absolutely nuts. And yeah, nobody really knew who they were. But I think because of that tour, then they started getting obviously more traction and then just becoming the thing that at the drive-in became. It's, you know, it's kind of cool to know that you were on that bill.
Yeah. And, that was the same tour. I talked to Jeff Kish from this band called Dawson High, and he later was in Weston. And there's a video online of Knapsack and at the drive-in on that tour, and they're playing this school in like around Pittsburgh. And Jeff, in conversation, he goes, "Oh yeah, so there's this show we put on, and at the drive-in, and Knapsack, and this video is out there." I was like, "Wait, you put that fucking show on?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "I remember buying that video 20 years ago." And he's like, "Yeah, that was our show." I was like, "Holy shit, man!" And yes, that's on YouTube, but that had to have been that tour.
Yeah. Oh, and I think Knapsack actually canceled that show. I think we had to fill it up with like some other locals. Did you ever hear of a band called Scallywagon?
Yeah, we played with those guys. Yeah, that was the other band. I fucking remember them from Cincinnati. Right?
Yeah,
or
so
Louisville.
They were from Cincinnati. So they were kind of our brother band. Like,
yeah.
See, we were coming up, and then they were coming up, and we were kind of doing kind of the same thing, and it was the same kind of thing. Like they had us. We weren't the same, but we had the same kind of style, and we kind of respected their sing-alongy choruses and their style, and like, you know, we had our sing-alongy choruses and our Chip style of playing guitar, and we shared many shows with them.
Yes, I totally forgot about that.
Like, so Sudsies was like the club. I don't really know how we got to play those two shows that we did, like the one with Promise Ring was on both, but the one with Jester Brazil and Jimmy Eat World. I remember one time, around the time I went to go visit my parents, and I came back, and I had to play this show, and it was at Bogart's, like the big place, you know.
Okay.
And it was like this big, I think it was maybe an all local bill. I don't think there was like somebody, I don't think we were opening for somebody big. I think we were just at this show. Maybe it's our seat. I don't know. We're playing Bogart's anyways. So I just watched this documentary on Keith Moon, like the behind the music, where he sets his like drums on fire, like puts the flash bomb in his drums.
Yeah.
And I bought this, like it was the summertime. I went to this fireworks stand, and I bought like all these bottle rockets, and I bought this, like they sold this like military issue like smoke bomb. And I told Chip, I was like, dude, okay, I'm going to let off some fireworks while we play. So I had to do something crazy, you know. I just saw this documentary on Keith Moon, and I'm like, and my whole thing was like, okay, so I'm going to be in a band. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do what it takes. And that motherfucker is crazy. What did he do? He made an impact. So I'm going to do that. And Chip, first I didn't want to tell him, but then finally I told him, and then he told Casey, and they both came up to me like, man, I don't know, dude. Like, that's cool, but I don't know if we can do that. And I was like, come on, man. So we ended up not doing that.
Oh, man.
But I gave the smoke bomb to one of my friends. And it was like you undo the top and you pull these strings, and it was like orange smoke. And orange smoke filled up the whole Bogart's and like started pouring out into the street. And like all these people were like, what the fuck? And I saw this security dude, because I was like, I don't want to be anywhere near it. My name is not on this. Here it is. You do it. Because I hung out with a crowd, like kind of an an interesting crowd in Cincinnati, and they love pulling pranks and shit like that and just getting a rise out of people. So they full on pulled that smoke bomb, and it was an orange smoke all through Bogarts, and it's a big 1,000, 2,000, well, about 1,000-seater hall. It's a big place.
Shit, okay.
Yeah, I saw Fugazi played there. I saw Rollins Band play there, loudest concert of my life. True story. Who else? I'm trying to think of. I saw Neurosis. Neurosis played there. Less Than Jake played. They had it's a big place. And then the orange smoke is all like going through like all of Vine Street. it was totally insane. And I was kind of like, and then, it's kind of funny because it's probably a good thing I didn't do that on our stage, because we probably would have got banned and then fucking the shit kicked out of us, because there's 3 of us, and Cincinnati's a tough town, and we're like the 3 most not tough guys in the city. So that was another interesting, fun little show. Oh, and I just tidbit, like the night I saw Fugazi, it was like Fugazi in the makeup at Bogarts. Right across the street, I went, and I couldn't even get in to Sudsy's because it was 21 and up. So I'm watching through the windows, like I'm watching the band Nashville Pussy. So it's kind of like, that will tell you my musical. One side, it's all like DIY, like post-hardcore. Then the other side, it's all like in your face, like songs about smoking pot and shooting your gun. And it's all like AC/DC punk and roll type stuff.
I feel like I kind of got that vibe when we went on tour. Like you kind of had your own style. You would wear like these black pants and the black Doc Martens, and then you had just this, as they used to call it, a wife beater on. That's all you wore the entire time. Like that was your style. And then Chip and Casey, they had the New Balances. Like Casey was like a hardcore kid with the tight jeans. He always had jeans on, which always blew my mind because I was sweating my ass off that whole tour and wearing shorts and shit. And then Chip was kind of like similar to him. He had more of the bigger, baggier shirts and shorts and things like that. But the 3 of you guys, like, it made sense for some reason, but it seemed like all 3 of you were, like, Chip and Casey were more on the same side of the fence, and you seemed to be kind of, like, fashion-wise separated from them.
And that may have stemmed from coming from Louisville. There was a thing in Louisville where people would wear like corduroys and wear like nice shoes and like V-neck sweaters.
It's like the saves the day look on Through Being Cool, like that style.
Yeah. So I kind of adapted that, but then I also the shoes and wore like the darker clothes, the darker pants, and then it gets hot playing drums, and I'm not really the dude who should be wearing a wife beater, but I did because it's fucking hot. So anyways.
So how did you guys, like, when you guys, I remember seeing photos, because you guys were our best friend band when we toured. I mean, granted, this was just a couple times, but we were so excited to go on tour with you when we first met. Now, I want to talk about that in length in a little bit, but when we met you guys, there was this automatic bond, and then every time we went back to Cincinnati, we'd always like stay with Casey at his apartment that was above
the frame shop.
Yeah, yes, that's right. Yeah, because that also blew my mind too, because we're from Jersey and we were all living at home, but when we went there, he's like, "Yeah, I have this apartment. It's only like $300 a month or something." It was a huge space, and I just kept thinking, like, my God, like Jersey's so expensive from what I hear, even though I was living at home, and Cincinnati just seems so fucking cheap. And you can have all of this stuff. I was like, yeah, but then I'd have to live in the Midwest, which I really wasn't wasn't really on my radar to do such. But like, we would always want to see you guys all the time. And then later on, we had this big riff with Chip and Casey. I think just because of the whole thing with Matt, like they kind of took Matt's side, and I could talk about that later. But we just always loved fucking playing with you guys. Like that was like, we were always looking forward to that.
I lived in that house the first show for the tour that I think y'all played.
Oh my God, that's right. The one that we played that fucking show in, the first show. Yeah, holy shit.
So I took over like the top floor. It was badass. There was a drum set there. I had my own bathroom, a fridge, and my own room. And I think I paid like $400, but it was above that house. So I had roommates, but I never saw them. Okay, so when I left for tour, I had to move everything out because everyone was moving out before I got home.
Yes, I remember that, because that show was they were like, yeah, this is our last weekend here, or that last month that you guys were living there, and then everyone had to move?
And I think I moved all my stuff into Casey's grandma's.
In the basement.
Yeah. So the thing is when we met you guys and you're like, cool, we're into the same stuff, we're about the same age. Like these guys really want to hang out with us. So that's cool. It wasn't like, let's just say a certain previous band on a previous tour
That you didn't mention earlier.
Yeah. So I was like, wow, this is totally cool, you know? And it was just kind of like we just gelled and we all just kind of got along.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I think our bands got along better than your band.
Oh yeah. Oh, we didn't get. Oh yeah.
I just remember at first, it was like the first week of the tour was like the van wars where we're like shooting bottle rockets at each other and fucking Sean. And I think this was and I know I heard him talking about this. I love Sean. Man, I miss that guy. I love to hear his voice. I was listening to his podcast. And so we're throwing like ketchup packets back and forth at each other's van and lighting fireworks and shit like that. Well, that time you guys fucking got me. You know, we're on the highway going 60. Y'all slowed down, told me to roll down the window. I roll it down. And all of a sudden, here comes this 44-ounce like big gulp. And it just hits me in the fucking face. I mean, it was like I saw it in slow motion, kind of like, I don't believe this is happening. And I was totally drenched. It went all over Chip and all over our tapes and all of our maps and shit, you know, and I was like, well, fuck. And I think we pulled over and I was like, all right, you guys got us. This needs to stop or, you know, we're going to end up, someone's going to get hurt or there's going to be a fight. So, but you guys won. Y'all won. And y'all got me, of all people. I was a dumbass sitting in the passenger, you know, front, fucking big gulp shower.
Well, you fucking got robbed, or someone got robbed prior to that. And let's just fuck it. Let's dive into this. So, Rob's driving. One of you guys had a barbecue packet, and you threw it, and it hit him in the eye. And he's driving, and he went blind. Like he was just like, "Holy shit, I can't see." We're like, "Fucking pull over." He's like, "I don't know where I'm going." So I think like me or Chris or Sean had to grab like the wheel, and Rob is just like his eyes are completely shut, and you guys are just laughing your ass off in the white minivan, Casey's grandma's minivan, and just because you guys kept nailing us like that. But yeah, we almost fucking died because he couldn't fucking see, and we're on like 70 or 40, like going to like Maryland or something like that.
Somewhere, yeah, and like. So, yeah, I remember that. I don't know if that was me or if that was Chip who threw that.
I think it was you. I could swear it was you.
Well, I was in the passenger, so it probably was me. I just don't think I have that good of an arm or aim, but I guess you got to get lucky once.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. So, leading up to that tour, and I'm going to dive back for a second. How did you guys – so you guys start playing shows, and then you record the 7-inch and put that out on White House Records. Like how soon after you guys got together and started playing did that happen?
We got together, and then, like I said, we had this emo song that didn't fit the mold. So then Chip just started cranking out all these songs. Oh, I wrote a new song. Oh, I wrote a new song. Then we did the 10-song demo tape. Then he wrote the other 3 because Pennies and Anorexic was on the demo, but I wanted to re-record it. I felt like that song was kind of like the hit. You know what I mean? It has... Totally. It's pretty straight ahead, doesn't have any weird breakdowns or any weird mosh parts or any weird turnaround. It's just pretty straightforward, like punk rock song. I was like, I want that one to be on the 7-inch. So then he wrote the other 2, and then we recorded those. I think we just had access to the studio in Cincinnati. At that point, I think we were really in the honeymoon phase. Like, this is our new band. We're going to do all this shit. We're going to make shirts. We had some dumb idea to make like golf tees, like little golf tees that we sold at our merch booth or gave away. I don't know why. And I remember we did the 7-inch, I'm pretty sure before the Operation Cliff Clavin tour. But the problem was, and I guess this can maybe segue into my departure, was we go on tour with Lane Meyer and they don't have any CDs the first couple of days, and we have our 7-inch and we're, you know, selling a few, but it's still, we didn't have a new product out, and it's not a CD, it's still a record.
Yeah.
And so when you guys got your CDs, and I forget what show it was, and I kind of thought there was somewhat of a good size Fat Records band headlining.
So it was Diesel Boy, and so I did an interview with Dave because do you remember this? I remember hearing a rumor that they and this is a really stupid story, but they were big fans of testing out all the sour or the coleslaw at restaurants, and that was like the big thing back in the day. Even now, it's like you don't eat the coleslaw at diners. And I asked Dave about it, and he's like, I think I remember this, but I remember just like talking to them outside after the show about that, and I'm just sitting there being like, why am I talking to them, or like, why is this such a thing when they're on fucking Fat Records? They just played our CD release show, but that was in Jersey. Yeah, but that was the
That's
band.
funny. No, I never heard anything about that.
Yeah, I don't remember
So y'all got
about
your
that.
CDs and y'all like selling them like y'all did. I remember y'all were like y'all like celebrating and like, dude, we did like 400 in Burt's or whatever. Like, we and something like that. And we're like, I'm like, how do we do? And they're like $60. And I'm like, dudes. And I was kind of like, man, why don't we have a CD? He's like, well, it's a little late for that now. So we go on the tour and it was great. Like I said, the first week seemed like the Van Wars. And then the next week seemed like the Relax Buddy tour, because all I heard from Sean was, hey, buddy, relax. Hey, we'll just relax, buddy. Hey, buddy, will you relax? Because I guess there was, and it's like we couldn't remember Rob's name. I mean, I don't know why. It's, for me, the easiest name to remember. But we kept calling him Mickey because he had the Mickey Mouse shirt. And I knew Sean, and I liked Sean. I always loved watching him play. And I liked him as a player. He's a hard-hitting drummer. And he was cool. He was just real. He seemed like I don't want to say like the dad, but he was just like the down-to-earth, like, he was the older. I really liked the singer, too. And obviously you and I hit it off great. I think one time I just jumped in your van, like, guess what? I'm coming with y'all.
Yep.
And we went somewhere. I mean, I remember the Diesel Boy show. I remember that roller rink. I remember, this is funny. Sean's all like, hey, we're going to go see Matt. And then we're going to go to New York City and we'll just spend a couple hours. You'll get bored after about 4 hours. And I was like, bored? I was like, it's New York City. He's like, how am I going to get bored in 4 hours? We went there and that was cool. Went to the couple record stores and really cool, like, toy stores and stuff like that in the village, I think. And
I remember like everything about that tour. Like I remember, but I know I'm kind of jumping around, but like real quick before we dive into that, because this is the bridge of how we met you guys. Like, how did you guys meet Matt? Because he had your 7-inch, so he must have seen you on that Cliff Clavin tour and got that 7-inch.
No, do you think he came down with Humble Beginnings?
Possibly. Where did you play with them?
In Cincinnati, like in a basement.
Oh, that's right, because they already had gone on their first tour, and because they came back and told us about it, and that's how we decided that we have to do this because it sounds like the greatest thing ever. I completely forgot that they played with you guys on that tour, because Gabe was in the band at that time, a really tall guy who was in Midtown.
Oh wow, cool. Yeah, so that show, that was the first show I ever played stoned.
Oh God.
And I'll just say that's the last show I ever played stoned, and I've been playing for nonstop for 20 plus years now. So that's why that show rings a bell. I got high as shit before I played. I don't know what the fuck I was thinking. And me, I like to spin my sticks, and I went to try and throw it up, and I threw up the stick, and it was in this basement, so the ceiling's real low, and it hit this pipe and just went the other way. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm not doing this again. So I never played stoned after that.
So besides your sobriety after that, but Matt, he must have been on that tour because that's how we started getting excited. We were playing, and then Rob's in the band because Alan didn't want to tour, so we got Rob, aka Mickey. I remember that. It was like that pink shirt, or it was like a pink Mickey Mouse shirt he would always wear.
Right. I thought it was blue, and I thought he had multiple. Like I thought maybe he had two of them, or maybe he just never he wore it for a straight week.
I think I'm like possibly like I have like the photo. I have our MySpace page. My God, our Facebook page. Jesus Christ, I'm keeping that in. I set it up for us. We have these albums, so I have. Every tour we went on, I would always take photos, and I still have the box in my room. It's like right behind the wall behind me, and I have all the photos from the tour that we did together. That's why I can remember this whole tour. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to look at this right now, but I think. Let me just see real quick. It's such a stupid incidental thing, but yeah, it was blue. Okay, yeah, he's wearing the blue shirt here. That's right. Okay, so we get Rob, and then we record the EP, and then. Or we're going to record, and then as we were going to, Matt was telling us, and we were in New York, and this is like a big time for me, man. I was just like, we're going to actually fucking tour. We're going to record. We got a label. This guy lives in the city, so we'd go to his apartment that was on like the the top, like really high up in some high rise.
Oh, I remember. Yeah.
Remember that? It was this huge, and
Uh-huh.
he always had that faucet that was always running all the time, and it just
Yeah.
stressed me out. And he's like, "Yeah, it won't turn off." I was like, "That's just water running all the time." Like it was weird, and then he had his bedroom had all the band T-shirts from all the shows he went to, and that's how he got to know so many people. And there was like a 7 second shirt, do you remember that? Like his room was just like shit ton of band merch on the floor.
I think I do, yeah, because we went up there for like a little bit. I remember the elevator because we were in the elevator for a long time.
Yeah.
And I remember it had like a mirror, and I think I took a picture of us in the mirror, and I think I was wearing a shirt that said like live fast, die young, live a good looking corpse. And then at some point, I think Sean gave me that New York fucking city beanie, and he scratched out so it just said New York fuck city. So I was like, oh fuck it, I'll wear it. Shit.
It's right. No, yeah, he gave it to you. Yeah, because there's a photo. I don't know why it's on the Facebook page, but I have that. I'll have to send you a picture of that. But I have that. Like you took the camera and you think you like put it down and shot it up or shot it. Yeah, it was like this. We all looked up and it was like the mirror. The mirror was above us or something. So I still have that photo.
So basically, I invented the selfie.
You definitely invented the selfie. This is before its time.
Oh, I did want to tell you this. Like, it was my idea to call the band Saturday Supercade.
Okay, talk about that. And then we're gonna jump into that first day of tour because I really want to talk about that for like a minute.
This one actually probably is a short story. We were just coming up with band names, and I wanted something kind of fun and something. I just remember that. Did you ever see that cartoon show?
Yeah.
I don't know if it was okay. Yeah. So I was like, man, what about the Saturday Supercade? We're like, oh yeah, that's cool. That's a cool idea. So that it just stuck. So
I didn't know you named the band.
Yeah, I did. But they agreed on it. So I'm 99% sure it was my idea. I don't know. I think there was something talk about like Qbert or like the Rubik's Cube
or some
show or something like that. And I was just like, I don't know. There was some kind of like cartoon play on that we were thinking of. And I just was like, what about Saturday Supercade? And then it seemed to work. So.
Yeah, that was like the thing too, like the band name, the star in the middle of that on the 7-inch, like, and then hearing that when Matt played it for us, he's like, I think you should go on tour with this band. And I remember hearing the record, and this is all in that time where everything was all brand new, and I was like, this is the most exciting thing ever. And so we get in our van, and we were going to meet you guys in Cincinnati to start the tour there, and then play down to Maryland, and then up through Jersey to Massachusetts. I remember this. And then we went like to Pittsburgh and then all the fucking way out to Indiana. That's where our van died. But we get in the van, we start driving straight to Cincinnati. It was like 10 hours or 8 hours or something crazy. And we get there and we're so fucking tired. And we met Casey in a Burger King parking lot. And it was so fucking hot. And then we ended up driving to his grandma's and just passing out in their basement. And then you guys start to show up. And that's how it's like, look at these fucking characters. And then fucking Brad, old Wardy B.
Oh, yeah.
And he hated that fucking name so much, but you guys kept calling him that, but he really hated it. Like, how the fuck what was his last name? Like Wharton or something like that?
Yeah, Brad Wharton.
He hated that name so much.
Yeah, he hated it. And oh my God. And I got a story about
yeah,
me too. Yeah, we always tried to give him some sort of. Well, we all had nicknames back then. It had to be something. Of course, his was the most weird, asinine old Wardy B. So, because I guess old dirty bastard was popular at that time, so it seemed to fit. Had a nice ring to it.
And he was like a super hardcore kid. He was big into Converge and Cave In and all these bands.
Yeah, later on he joined. Yeah, he joined a band called Premonitions of War, and they were good. They did some stuff. I saw him down here. I think it was after he left though, but they were on tour with like Satyricon and like some other band from another country that I can't pronounce.
I have no idea. How'd you guys meet him though?
I think he went to high school with Casey, so he was with us, and so we go on tour. And I don't know if this. if that should segue into the departure.
No, no, no. We're not the departure yet. We're still
Okay.
talking about so we get on we leave the next morning. So we get there. We get to Casey's house, grandma's house. We pass out downstairs, and then we ride over to the house where we played that show, and that's where we met Trevor for the first time. Trevor Brock. Remember Trevor?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah, because he was at that show, and he was like this super shy, like super southern sounding kid, and he was just like, "Yo, man, I really like your band." I was like, "That's cool." Then he would always, then that from that point on, he would always show up at shows, and we just like fucking love that kid. But he was at that house show, so we were playing this house show, and that was where you were living, and we were so fucking tired, and I was like, "Man, this is the beginning," but I was like so fucking excited, and we played that show, and then we went back to Casey's, and we wake up, and then that next day we're getting ready to leave. So you guys just packed up his grandma's minivan, and you had the like the camper thing on top for your luggage. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you guys cram into that shit. We have our shit green van, which we called Phil. Had no windows except for the driver and passenger side, and then the windshield. The only thing you could see is through that, and everything on the sides was just metal, so we're just cooking in this thing. So you guys, this is my favorite story. Like we start following you guys to just this journey to go down to Maryland. I don't know why that's how it started, but we start driving, and you guys pull up. We see we're trailing you guys. We're right in downtown or wherever we are. It's a pretty busy area. And this guy is walking on the sidewalk, and we just see you guys pull up, and the guy looks over at you, and it's like you asked him a question, and then we see this fucking just burst of water come out from a super soaker and just get the guy in the face.
I was trying to remember if that was the Super Soaker tour as well. That
Yep.
was okay. Yeah. Because, like I said, we kind of already been on tour once, and it's that whole like, fuck you, I'm on tour, like no mom, no dad, no girlfriend, no job.
Yep.
Like I said, here we are, like the least toughest guys in Cincinnati, just running around the US and just playing jokes on people. We just thought that's what you did. We just
Oh
thought,
man,
that's
you
punk
guys fucking taught us how to like fuck with people. I mean, we were so timid, and you guys were just like, you did that shit, and we all looked at each other like, oh my god, this is gonna be the best fucking week or like 10 days of our lives. We were so excited, and then we went on the road and we pulled over, and then you guys just shot into some big fireworks warehouse, and then we were like, oh, we're fucked. And you guys bought all these fireworks, and then we leave, and you just start shooting them off, bottle rockets at us, just like right from the beginning. We were like, oh, we are not prepared for this shit at all. Like these guys are crazy.
That was, well, I guess I'm guilty by association, but yeah, that was, well, yeah, I was going to say that was Chip's idea or Casey's idea, but it was one of them.
I think Casey. I think Casey seemed like because Casey was nuts.
Yeah.
Super subdued, super chill guy, like one of the sweetest people ever. But he just had this crazy side where I think like we drank. Yeah, no, I think on that tour like he wasn't drinking. And then it was the next tour when we saw you guys, he started drinking. But I think on that one, like, you were the only one drinking, maybe?
I was, yeah.
Yes.
And I remember that Sean came, because he was the only one of age, so he came down with, like some kind of box, like, with all these, like, 40 ounces. And I remember drinking, like, a 40 ounce of King Cobra.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck is this? So I was like, well, whatever. I'm getting drunk. Fuck it. Yeah, none of them partook in that.
And then I think like the next time we came through, Casey got really big into wine coolers.
Oh,
That was his thing. And we were like, what the fuck? And he's like, yeah, man, I just really got into drinking and I love these wine coolers. I was like, that's cool, bro. Whatever works.
yeah, because I guess I wasn't vegan or vegetarian. And then that year, like I went to college prior to that tour. So I was in college all my first year of college. So you know how that goes.
Yeah, you were like the only one who would party with us. And not like we were really partying. We would just, I don't really remember how much I mean, we didn't really have that much time to drink. We were all like 18 and Sean was 21 or 22 at the time.
Yeah.
Or like 23 or something. But yeah, I mean, like, remember we drove all the way down. We ended up staying, and we played that music store in Maryland. That guy who owned it. He lived upstairs or something, and then they didn't have enough space, so me, and Sean slept in the van, our van, and had the door open, and we woke up and everyone was just on this, like there was like a cop there.
Oh,
Remember this? And then people were just staring at us because they thought we were homeless or something.
yeah. I think I do remember that.
Yeah, it was so fucking hot.
I wonder if we got drunk that night, because I just figured that would probably be the best end off to a night. Like, well, I don't know if I'm sleeping in a van, but if I drink a 40 of King Cobra, I don't give a shit.
Yeah. So we just saw it as we were the ones, and I think it was pretty noticeable. Like we were the ones who were always constantly fighting. It got more worse as the touring years or different tours went on, but I think you guys would see glimpses of it possibly between like me and Chris or like Sean and Chris.
There was definitely a rift, and we all liked, well, everybody. I think Chris was kind of the one who we didn't get to spend as much time with. You were real outgoing, and Rob was real outgoing. He might have sometimes maybe had a girlfriend or was on the phone with or a lot or something, but you were real outgoing, and me and Sean talked about drums and everything else. And I just think Chris, we never really got to connect with him as much. But then, and I think too, I remember one time I thought maybe I had a video camera. Someone had a video camera.
Sean did.
Okay, and I think we got a hold of it and tried creeping around your van while Sean, I think you three, or maybe all of you guys were
we were fighting.
Having like a fight. We were trying to like catch it like the real world, reality TV, like try and catch them bitching at each other.
Yep.
So, but I think Sean saw it. It was like, man, get the fuck out of here or whatever. Yep. Like, I just remember him saying, relax, buddy. So we kept kind of adapting that to our normal like lexicon. Like, dude, relax, buddy. There's a Taco Bell down the street. Okay, it's not vegan, but it'll do. So
I totally remember that. Well, like we were always, I was always jealous of all the other bands that we would tour with or played with because it seemed like they had their shit together. So, and like touring with you guys were just even keel, like just super chill. And then later on, we'll talk about like how you got departed the band and all that. But like, what was the inner circle like when you guys were driving to the shows and in between shooting fucking fireworks at us and and barbecue packets and things like that?
Well, that was that whole like mixtape era where you like you make your tour mix, like you said the night before, you like stay up till 5 a.m, like putting all your favorite songs on a tape, trying to impress the other guys or trying to be ironic. Like, Casey would make a tape and they had like Def Leppard and Poison. I would bring like a Slayer tape. I mean, and Brad would listen to like Converge or like some Boston hardcore band. Yeah, we would just do that or just tell stories, or I think Brad would read something, and then I think that would be the thing. We would just get antsy and then just be like, all right, we got to, probably Casey would like, all right, we got to do something. Where's the super soaker? Like, let's shoot that guy, let's spray him down, and then, oh, we got more fireworks. So we were always kind of, it was weird. I kind of miss those trips because nowadays you go on tour, everyone's on their phone, or everyone just keeps to themselves and no one really talks. And, it's just, you know what I mean? Like back then, that's all you had to do and play cassettes. So we rewind and then fast forward. Oh, this song sucks. Hold on. Yeah, just listen to music and everything. So we listened to your CD a lot. I'll tell you that.
Oh, that's
cool.
We
did. I think we did have a CD player in it then, because I remember listening to the CD because we were like, dude, their CD's badass. We got to know the songs. Actually, I'm not saying this just because I'm talking to you, but it became one of my like favorite CDs that I listened to at that time.
That's awesome.
I mean, I wear that CD out broke because I played it so much. So there you go.
That's awesome. No, I'm gonna keep that in. Not like I'm cutting any of this out. But like what was, I don't know, were you guys like having, because we would constantly be talking about this is the greatest thing ever, we're on tour. Then it all started to creep in, and Chris would, Chris was kind of quiet because he had a lot of anxiety, which I talked about in his interview, which I knew about it, but I didn't really know how bad it was, and that's why he would always get like hammered before he played and like when he could. And he just really just didn't like being on the road because he hated performing. Like he was just so nervous. So it was starting to unravel from the very beginning, and then eventually it blew up later on many times when Sean left and then he came back and then Chris quit and then then I finally quit. There was always it was always turmoil. So with you guys though, did you guys like have conversations in the van while you were on that tour? Because I mean, there was a small amount of time between that tour ending and then you like leaving the band. But like, did you guys talk about like, all right, cool, like we want to record this next thing, or we want to get this big, or we always want to tour, or did you just kind of keep it like pretty chill? We're like, yeah, we're just gonna do this for now, and we'll see where it goes.
Well, I guess the whole dynamic in the band is like we all watch like Kids in the Hall, so we talk about and redo our favorite skits of like Kids in the Hall, and that kind of became our language. And then, we play the tapes, different music styles, and then we talk about wanting to tour and what to do. We need to put out a CD, and I think we all at that point were really into it and really were like, this is what we want to do. This is what even me at that point, I was like, man, I went to college, fuck college, like I want to be in a fucking band, I want to be on the road. This is what I want to do. And I think that was kind of the thing. And Chip is very computer savvy. So he did our website and all of that. And Casey at that point worked at the frame shop and lived, I think, above the frame shop. In the van, we tried to make each other laugh, or like at that point when we were in the band, I kind of felt like we were getting some traction. We were on our second tour. We were going to do a CD. We were going to get signed to Red Leader or Side One or Epitaph. No. This is what we hoped.
Okay. I was like, holy shit.
No. This is what we were like hoping. Like, we just thought that was the next step. We just thought like, okay, so we thought we were just like, there wasn't a book laid out, but we just figured, okay, this is what you do. And then all of a sudden, you put in your time, you tour, you make fans around the U.S., and then people notice you, then you get signed, and then you're on a label, then you're on a tour. We just figured it was going to happen for us at some point. We were just kind of like, yeah, maybe not this tour, maybe the next one we'll get signed, and then we'll tour with somebody like Diesel Boy, and then the next time we'll tour with Propagandhi or some Fat Records band or something like that, and then we'll tour with Blink-182, and then we'll be rich rock stars, and we just figured like that's just supposed to happen, right? It's happening for all these other bands,
So that's what you guys were like focused on.
Yeah, pretty much being like, I think that was the goal actually.
I kind of felt like it seemed like you were more looking to be more of a road dog than, because Chip was dating his girlfriend at the time, and they were really serious. And then Casey was with Elizabeth, I think. Yeah. So they had girlfriends, and you were kind of like this free spirit, I thought. So I felt like you were the one who was like wanted to do more of that, and they were like, meh.
Yeah, because I don't know where to go with this, but like, I had a long-term girlfriend in high school, and then college, dated a few girls, and then I didn't have one in Cincinnati because I went to college in Lexington, Kentucky. So I would drive up for shows, hence why I got high before that Humble Beginning show, because I'm 2 hours from Lexington to Cincinnati. The people I brought thought it was a great idea to smoke a joint on the way, and I, of course, did, and then never did that again. So, so I'd gotten out of college, so I didn't have a girlfriend at the time like they did, and they had like long-term like live-in like girlfriends.
Yeah.
And I was living by myself, like on top of the third floor of that house. So yeah, I just wanted to be in a band. We'll be in that band and do what it takes to be, take it to the level, because I just felt like we were next.
Yeah.
Like, it's gonna be, because it was kind of like what I was saying. You put out do the demo, then the 7-inch, and then here comes the CD, and then you tour, and then you just kind of work up the ladder, and then all of a sudden you get signed. Because I think the long-term goal that Chip wanted, he wanted to be signed to either, well, obviously Epitaph or Fat Wreck. We were like, okay, that's our goal. Let's just work towards our goal. So we just figured that's what we were trying to do. And then I just remember touring with you guys on that same 7-inch. I was like, wait a minute, we should have a CD. Where's our CD? They have a CD. Where's our stuff, man?
Well, they ended up doing that later on. They put 2 CDs out after that, one on Red Leader and then the other one on Liberation. And actually, New Home, which is on Liberation, that release, that's still in my Spotify playlist. It's like one of my favorite songs that Chip ever wrote. I mean, that was down the line after you'd left the band.
Oh, that album's great. It's phenomenal. It's one of my favorite pop, and I can say that because I'm not on it, so it doesn't sound like I'm not on it. So I can say without anything that I love that album, and I think it's one of those albums that I think I read a review, because I played it for my band I was in this punk rock band here in Texas, and I played it for them, and they liked it. And then they read a review, and it said like, yeah, Saturday Supercade, like everyone's a target. It's a good album, but it just sounds like one long song. It's a good song. And then, but the thing is you have to, it's one of those albums where you have to, it's so good, you have to listen to it over and over. And then you start realizing, well, first that one's the hit. No, wait, that one's the hit. No, wait, that one's the hit. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like, it just became, I don't know. I just listened to that album. And I was kind of like, at that point I was like, they did it. And even at that point I was like, they're going to do it. They're doing it without me. So I guess, I don't know if now is a good time to segue on when I left.
Yeah, because we went on that tour with you guys in August, and we went back out in the winter with the second tour was pretty soon after that. And then the third ones where we were going to kick Rob out, and he kind of caught wind of it and he quit. And then we got Dave, and I think you might have met him because so on the second tour we went out and we played in Cincinnati. So you guys were there. You didn't go on the road, and we had met up with you. I think you were still in the band at that point because that's when we played Sudsy Malone's, and I think that's when Chip showed us photos of you guys, or photos from the Jets of Brazil show, where we were like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And so things were like starting to happen for you guys, and then I forget when I think it was like soon after that when you had departed, and then they got Aaron. Yeah, so Aaron was in the band after that, and we loved Aaron, so we were just like, Robbie Cade's not in the band anymore. Like, what the fuck? And then you moved to like Texas after, and then we ended up seeing you down the line on our last tour because we played with your band. That it was like you and like two girls, or that was the band you were in. It was like something with Cat. I forget what that band was. Do you remember this? We played with you in Texas, in Denton. It was in Denton, Texas.
Oh, was it Lucy Love Schroeder?
Yes, yeah. And then we played in that like slaughterhouse.
Yes.
Yep. I have photos from that.
Yeah.
So what the fuck happened, man? Like because I don't think I ever got the full story.
Or my side of the story.
Oh, here comes the dirt, bitches.
Yeah. I mean, it's not nothing too crazy, and it's kind of what I kind of touched on a little earlier. So we get back from the tour, and so I didn't have a place to live. You talk about what we were talking about in the van. I was talking to Brad about like, hey, I'm not gonna have a place to live. Casey's like, hey, why don't you just live with Brad? He's got that 1-bedroom apartment,
Oh, God.
And I was like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. Well, Brad didn't think it was the greatest idea. So I was living with Brad for like two weeks, and I'm working like crazy, like shitty, like temp jobs. One was I was putting together the toy display for the new toy that comes in a Happy Meal for Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Okay.
And it's in like this total industrial part of Cincinnati has a very industrial part of town. And I was in that part of town, and I was like, dude, what the fuck am I doing here? Like, this ain't gonna work. And then so I started working this other job because I only worked that job for like a day and a half. I just remember I played this show on a Saturday. And on that Saturday, prior to that, that during that week, I never really saw Brad because I don't think he really wanted to come home because I was there. He was just like, oh, fucking Rob's here. Like, he's sleeping on my couch, I just need my time alone. I need my space, He had told me, I think on like a Tuesday or Wednesday, like, hey, you can't stay here this weekend because my dad's coming in town. And of course, by Saturday, I go play a show, and I totally forget, and he would leave the sliding door open for me in the back because he was on the first floor. So I'm like coming in, and my friend Tim is with me. He actually goes by the name Arlo now. He's, I guess, a famous country singer in Cincinnati, Arlo McKinley.
No idea who that is, but go on.
Right. Well, just check him out. So, and he was like my best friend back then. He's helping me load all the drums into that back sliding door. And I noticed there's a person on the couch, and he notices there's somebody on the couch too. And he's all like, just being dumb, like, who's that guy on the couch? Should we kill him? It was Brad's dad. And like, he probably would have killed us. I mean, like with his bare hands. And we're like, and I was like, I don't know. And then he gets up, he's like, all right, what the fuck is going on? I was like, oh shit. I was like, are you Brad's dad? And he's like, yes, I am. Who the fuck are you? And I was like, oh, I live here. And he's like, you what? And I was like, I mean, I'm keeping my drums here just this one time because I don't think I think his parents were paying for his apartment. So I don't think he was supposed to have anybody living with him, I think was the situation. So I wasn't supposed to be living there. That's why I couldn't be there. I woke his dad up. My friend was being dumb, saying like, oh, we should kill him. And his dad got all pissed off. And so we left. And I stayed at Tim's house. Needless to say, after that, I had to move out of Brad's place where I got kicked out, basically. So I started living at Tim's house. And so at Tim's house, he lived with his parents, and his older brother lived upstairs, and we lived in the basement. And there was another guy named Dave who lived there. And so we just sit there, and none of us really had jobs. And I was doing random ass jobs. Like there was one job where I would drive to like Akron, Ohio, and pressure wash these industrial machines with like this dry ice. You know, it was the craziest shit. I'd be on these like 30-foot like scaffolds, like, and these, you know, just crazy shit like that. And so I'm working on these crazy jobs only to be in Cincinnati just to play in this band. Like I don't have like a girlfriend. I mean, and I was working this job where I work at the Cincinnati airport, like filling up containers with boxes that are getting shipped to like Hong Kong or like the UK or just some far off land. And it's like third shift. And I just kind of started going crazy. And, you know, I have a girl. I mean, I was kind of dating this stripper for a while, and that was fun. I mean, when is it not? But then it was nothing real serious, you know, we just hang out, smoke weed, and listen to like old Stooges records and MC5 and
just hold hands and all that. Yeah.
I didn't really have anything solid as far as girl. I didn't really have anything keeping me there except for the band. And then I remember, you know, we were writing some songs, and we weren't recording fast enough. You know, we had any plans for, it just seemed like the band, after we got off, the band was kind of on, not a hiatus, but it wasn't just go, go, go anymore. I think we got back in August or July or
with
something.
Us? With the tour from us?
Yeah. What time when did we get?
It was August. It was like August and September, because we played that discount show out in Lafayette in Indiana, because my girlfriend at the time, she was going to Purdue. So we stayed that's where our van died. And
okay.
So that was like, since she had just started school. So it was like the end of August, beginning of September.
So by that time, I think we only played one show, and I think it was in November.
That was with us, right? Because we went back out. I think that might have been us and you.
That might have been another thing too, because was it at a coffee house? I thought there was a show we played. It was at a coffee house, and I think the drummer George, his old band, played with us, and I thought he was always a great drummer. And then I remember we had wrote this song. I was really happy about it because I wanted it to sound, and it's on that record with Aaron.
Was that the metal one? No, with the stars or whatever it was.
No, it kind of just starts off with the drums just going real crazy. And I think it's something like, if it weren't for excuses, I'd be there with you now. Something like that. And so I remember like wanting to write a song just like New Jersey's Best Dancer era, Lifetime. Because again, I thought that record, when that came out, I was like, dude, this is the best. This is the best record that nobody's heard of. Yep. And those who've heard it, they will say it's the best record. And there's a little band called Saves the Day, and they're going to tell you that's the best record they ever heard.
Yep, 100%.
So it just got to a point, and then finally in December, I actually landed like a good job. I was working in the mall, but I was working at Express, and this is back when, you know, Express was like all girl clothes, and it was right next to Bath and Body. So I'm like the only guy, and there's like 100 chicks, good looking ones, like between the ages of like 18 and like 40. And I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Like, I love this job. I just sat back there and like steamed pants and like put shirts on hangers and put it out there. I was like the stock boy, you know, and all these hot chicks come in and they're eating their yogurts. They're telling me about their boy problems. And I'm like, well, if you didn't date a fucking jock, like you need to drop the hero and get with the 00. I mean, like, I ain't a jerk, but I'll treat you right. And then it just got to a point where I was like, man, I'm living on my friend's couch. You know, I'm working this job. I kind of don't, and I've been not homeless, but like living in my friend's basement, you know, because it's not really my home. It's his home. And there's 2 other guys there. And then there's another friend who's living there. And I was just like, man, my parents moved to Texas. I'm going to go visit them for Christmas. And I was like, I just don't think I'm going to come back. Because I was kind of like, not pissed, but just not let down, but kind of burnt out on couch surfing and juggling a job just for the band. Because like I said, I didn't have like a steady girlfriend that I was staying for. I was just staying for the band. I just told a handful of people, and Chip and Casey weren't one of them. Because I was a bit kind of, guys, like, y'all are living it up, and I'm like in Tim's basement, and it's winter in Cincinnati,
the happiest place on earth.
Yeah, right. So I went to Texas and stayed with my folks for a little bit, and about 2 weeks later called them and told them like, hey, I'm in Texas and I just don't think I'm coming back, and I don't really recall too much what was said, and I think Chip was really kind of like, because Chip's like that, he's like, oh, okay, that's cool. Basically his way of saying like, all right, well, fuck you. And then Casey was kind of like, man, are you sure? Like, oh, so that's how it's going to be. And I was like, well, kind of like, if I come back there, I can't stay on Tim's couch, like, I don't know what to do. I can't stay in the frame shop. Can't stay on Brad's couch either. We all know how that worked out. So I just ended up staying in Texas, in Dallas. In Dallas at that point, I had a really good scene, and like, bands like the Toadies are from Dallas, and the precursor to the Polyphonic Spree, that band, I forget what they're called. They got that song like, I got a girl and she's got a guy.
Oh my God, I forget their name, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
So I answered an ad to play in a female-fronted like punk rock band, and I was kind of like, okay, so it's a little more Ramones style, but at that point, that punk rock era was really generating steam. Blink-182 had just came out with Damn It Dude Ranch had already came out, and I think when I joined Lucy Love Schroeder, like What's My Age Again was the popular video. I was like, okay, so I just felt like, all right, it's gonna happen. I'm in this band, the chick can sing, she looks good. We got a cool little niche thing. We kind of look like the Muffs because we got like the nerdy looking bass player, and then we got the chick and then the drummer. So in that band, and I guess that it wasn't my goal to kind of like surpass like Saturday Supercade's success, but it was just like I needed to get at the level that I was at and hopefully surpass it. And we luckily at that time, the band Lucy Love Schroeder, we opened up for AFI, like at small clubs like AFI, the Distillers.
Oh wow.
Taking Back Sunday, and then we ended up playing some like Edge Fest, and it's like a radio station festival with like Papa Roach and Unwritten Law. When Unwritten Law came out with that song that was real big, See in Red. So around that time, so we, and that was kind of our little, and we were kind of doing the thing. And by that time, they recorded that album with Aaron, and I was like, man, these are all the songs that I helped co-write. Not co-write, like I should get writing credits, but like I'm the one who rehearsed this. This is my drum parts that are being replicated on this song. Like that whole song, I helped, like I was a part of every single song on there except for maybe like one.
Because you guys are playing those songs on the tour.
Right. So I heard it, and it's kind of like, man, that should have been me. I'm doing my thing in Texas, and then they came out with the Everybody's a Target, and I think they played Denton as well. At that point, they seemed like they had matured as a band, as people, and was doing it. That was when they were on tour, and Matt Sims was their roadie, and they had the other guitar player, and I was just at that point, it was probably 3 years, 2 to 3 years after we were friends. I was just more or less like proud of them. I was like, well, you guys, this is a great record. The band sounds great. Like you guys, George is a phenomenal drummer. They had like a more polished sound. Chip was playing a Les Paul, not trying to diss on a Strat, but he's playing a Les Paul. Like he putting his big boy pants on, and
it's just because it's a heavier guitar, or just has like a fuller sound.
Yeah, I'm a drummer, but I'm a total guitar snob, and I love Les Pauls and SGs through Marshalls. And
yeah, Gibsons are fucking stupid. They're so good.
I was just, at that point, they had a good drummer, other guitar player. They had strong songs that weren't not so much like goofy. Not like our stuff was like goofy, but they had songs that actually held some. It just was a mature record and sound. And I was thinking like, shoot, man, now they're gonna do it. They're gonna be on tour with somebody, and I guess you always, like I said, you're always, or I was always trying to find the next stepping stone of the band, and you reach a level of success and you want to get higher. It's kind of like with owning your own business. You hit a milestone, like you toured, then you want to do it again, and then you tour with this band, and then you open up for this band, or you record a CD, and then all of that. So I just kind of, since then, not that Dallas was really in the car, it was just where my parents lived. I just felt like it was a safe place to kind of get my feet on the ground. And then Denton has a great music scene. Dallas has a good scene. Fort Worth had a great scene, still does. I just felt like maybe I should be here. And I thought about going back to Cincinnati, but by that time they already had the new drummer. And I was like, well, if I go back, I'm like going backwards. I want to be going forward. We'd be progressing. Like I said, with Lucy Lev Schroeder, we had a pretty good run and played with a lot of bands. And I remember a kind of a pinnacle moment was we had our CD release at one club when the Donnas were right across the street. Our club was packed, nowhere near the Donnas, but I mean, we could at least hold a room with one girl when they had like five, and they had MTV hits, and we're releasing our CD.
I remember playing with you guys too. Like I said, in Denton, and I didn't realize that because that was the last time I saw you. Because I think you had just started in that band, or they were already a band and got you in it or something like that.
Yeah, they were a band in San Antonio and then moved to Dallas right about the time I moved to Dallas, and then so we just found each other.
Okay, yeah, I didn't realize that you guys took it so far. Like because when we played that show, I mean, in that slaughterhouse, it was a pretty light crowd in general. I didn't get a good taste of what the scene was like, or like what your fan base was like then. Like we were just passing through.
And that was weird for us too, because I think that's a new place that they just started having shows there. Like we were kind of the first couple shows there. There's a place called, I don't know if you heard of it, called Rubber Gloves.
Maybe was that a big club? We did play. I thought it was in. No, it was never mind. That was Houston. No, totally different and very far
Yeah,
from Dallas.
Rubber Gloves was a big square room with like a bar off to the side. I saw I saw My Morning Jacket there a long time. There's only 30 people there. But Saturday Supercade played at that one too. And that would have been more of the quintessential like Denton scene, because that's been the place where they've had shows. Oh, I saw Hot Water Music there. So that's like, you know what I mean? Like that would be the place. It was pretty famous, I guess, or known. So that slaughterhouse, I think, was just kind of a new place trying to get off the ground or something. And I don't know how long it really took off. But I mean, Denton, there's so many little spots to play and basements of a pizza place or this bar or that bar. I mean, Denton's a really cool city.
So when all that shit went down, and I mean, that's pretty much like that's like the end of the chapter. But like shit just got weird with us and them because we left Red Leader, and Sean basically took the record and just put it out himself without like getting the okay from Matt. So Matt, like, just to this day, like, I don't think Matt's a big fan of us because of that happening. But like things got really skewed, and I saw Matt once when Lifetime reunited in 2006, and I talked to him for like a minute, and then I saw him again at the Texas the Reason show in New York when they played a couple nights, and I saw Chip there because Chip got divorced and then moved to New York, and I think he's lived in Brooklyn or in Manhattan or wherever it was, like, this whole time. But like it was just sad because you were always like, we never had any riff with you, which was great because every time we'd see you, or like we saw you in Texas and shit, like it was always cool, and it would just always bum me out because we just had this thing happen between us and Casey, or us and Matt, and that just trickled down to Casey and Chip, and we saw them at Mac Rock a year or so after we had started like the tour with you guys, and they kind of blew us off. Like we were driving by and Casey like kind of flipped us off and gave us the finger, and we like spun around and we walked. We were like, what the fuck is that about? So like it just ended just like poorly between us and them, and I never like hated those guys, so I was always bummed out by that.
Yeah, that seems kind of out of character for him to do that to y'all. I mean, I don't know what happened later or if anything did.
I mean, it's really nothing that you can talk to because it's just like more like just it's connected because you guys are the first band we ever toured with. I mean, that literally is like the person you lose your virginity to.
I was just gonna say, you always remember your first.
Yeah, I mean that tour, I can remember so much about it, and it was such a great time. And but yeah, I don't really know where I was going with that, but it was just like, oh man, that fucking sucks. And it was cool because, like, do you know that Matt is like, he writes comic books. He writes them and then he has like an illustrator or illustrators, but he's like really fucking famous in the Marvel world.
No shit. I had no idea.
Yeah, someone told me about this. He's got like 40,000 followers on Twitter or something. It's crazy.
Wow. I thought there was something like, well, he was obviously doing something right because he lived in that, what do you call it, like a flat or
No,
like
that was
a,
his parent. No, his parents owned that.
oh, okay.
That wasn't,
Well,
yeah, his parents were like pretty wealthy and they lived up in Connecticut. So that was their apartment and they just like let him live there with Claire.
okay. Yeah. So there was, yeah, I figured he would be, he would do something,
Yeah,
you
he
know.
was a smart guy. I mean, but like he was really good at knowing what bands were going to blow up. I mean, he had a really good ear for it. He knew that Newfound Glory was going to be huge. I mean, I was pretty that made me pretty happy when he said to us, he was like, we were his first release, which you can't even see on like Red Leader. He just like completely deleted it as we were Red Leader #1. But that made me think like we had something because he really liked us. And then Boxcar, and then you guys, he saw that from the beginning. Like he always had a good ear, and so so it's like to anyone, if anyone listening hasn't heard like the earlier stuff or any of the Supercade stuff, it's like fucking great.
Yeah. I mean, I think we were just, I don't know. It was just that thing. I think Chip really got a handle on like, and really was dove in hard to all the pop punk stuff and just everything, and really just loved Propagandhi almost to where now at that point it was my favorite band too. And I was like, I don't even do the political thing. I just like the music. And I think it was just at that, like I said, it was at the right time where we were doing something. It wasn't just straight ahead. Like, there was like, well, let's throw in a mosh part or a halftime. Let's do this, or let's completely change the feel right here. Let's throw in this break. We just really tried to do something different. And I think Chip was responsible for a lot of that because, I mean, he was such a good guitar player,
Yeah, he was sick.
I mean, just being able to do all those notey riffs and sing at the same time.
Yeah.
I didn't think about it, but I had a friend like, God, that guy's amazing. How does he do that? I can't imagine. I was like, I don't know.
But like at the same time, I never felt that you guys really got the local cred that I felt you could have gotten if maybe if you were somewhere else.
Yeah, and then and that was kind of one of the things, not really why I left, but it was one of the things where I was kind of thinking like this needs to happen, and it needs to happen now, or we're going to be doing the same thing, touring on the same 7-inch. And I think like after I left, I don't really know. I think they obviously they still play, but I think they still were doing well. I think there's YouTube shows of them. I think them playing at the Southgate House, and it's packed.
I could not find anything online.
No, I thought I know there's a house party that we're playing at, and it's kind of short and it's real choppy, but you can see us in a house party and it's crowded. I'll try and send
Yeah,
you the
find
link.
that and send it to me. Yeah, because I just never like we would play with you guys and then afterwards with them. We played with them a bunch of times. I mean, we did like a really small tour with them again when you were in the band. That's when we met Aaron. Those were like us, them, and River City High. That's how they met.
Yeah.
I think it's
Okay.
like when River City High met Matt, and then they got on Red Leader then. I felt like every time we would play with them, and it was in like Louisville, that arcade, like there was never like this crowd singing the words back to them. And I was just like, I don't get it. I don't see why it's not happening.
Yeah, and that could have been maybe just the way Louisville was. Like had a really good music scene, but it was like their scene. You know what I mean? Like it was their baby.
Well, that's why I talked to Matt Breen about that. I was just like, I feels like the local scene there was more encompassed, like more arms open to the bands that came in from out of town than their local bands.
Yeah, and I don't know if there was a thing like a rift between Louisville and Cincinnati because it's only an hour and 15 apart. So I don't know if there was something like that, like that band's from Cincinnati, or I don't know. I just know that sometimes I would play, I think with Saturday Supercade in Louisville, like it was kind of the same, not so great turnout. It just seemed like it was really hard to break in and to get people to like us there. But when we played other places, they'd like love us, So I don't know.
Yeah, man. Actually, I found that video of them playing at the Southgate House.
Yeah.
Oh wow, this is an 09. Yeah. Was there any other like, I don't know, random stories that you remembered when you were like trying to pick your brain about that time, or something you're like, oh, I have to talk about this?
I was trying to think about. I remember the big gulp for sure. I remember Rob getting hit in the eye, and that was probably me. And I'm sorry, Rob. I didn't mean to, but I can't really remember too many ultra crazy stories besides my friend pulling the smoke bomb, and it smoked out all of Vine Street. Like Vine Street was orange. And the good thing is, for all the crazy shit that we did, like the craziest shit, like you were basically a part of, because it was on that tour, at least in my era.
That was the only time we ever toured with a band where shit went that wild. Any other time, like we went Whippersnapper, they were very even keel guys. Lawrence Arms, they were just drunk the whole time. Brennan and Chris were. Who else? Fucking Humble Beginnings. That was a crazy one. That's where we started introducing the fireworks thing to them. Because we took that we took that on the road. I think we tried that a couple times, and some bands were like, "What the fuck are you doing?" We're like, "Oh." Oh, you guys are inside of Supercade. This is gonna work the same way. We did have like another when we did play with them. We were somewhere on the road for a little bit. It was like the 4th or 5th tour. It was when we got Casey in the band. I think, yeah, you met Casey when we were in Texas when we were playing in Denton.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, okay. Tall guy, beardy. So we played a couple shows with the newer lineup, and then we ended up we were inside, and I tell the story about some skinhead guy wanted to like beat my ass when we were on stage, and I was like, I was afraid I was gonna die. Then we came out afterwards, and those guys, and then Saturday Supercade guys, just like totally like shaving cream and toilet paper and saran, like our whole van, like we couldn't even open the fucking door, and we're like, son of a bitch. And then we ended up like fucking with their van at some gas station. Like I think we like started throwing. I forget the fuck what happened. But that was like the only thing. Like that's where we learned it from, was from being on the road with you guys. And like I was talking with someone recently, a couple of interviews back, and we were talking about how I'll ask that question of, do you have any crazy stories? And someone's like, you know what, it really wasn't anything crazy. It was just us just being in a van and just being up late and having goofy conversations, like you said, doing kids in the hall quotes and things like that. And that's like really what it was. It wasn't this crazy Sodom and Gomorrah, like,
right, yeah,
heroin and shit. It's never, I don't know, maybe some bands were. I mean, obviously it's a broad statement, but it was always just like goofy, just random things, like a soda going in your lap. For me, that's one of the funniest things ever. Someone listening could be like, I don't get it.
Right, they just had to see it.
They had to see it. It was so great. Sean's face afterwards, he was like, oh my God.
And my face was just like, I saw it coming towards me like in slow motion, and it was this huge 44-ounce cup, and it just doused me. And
well, you also,
I was like,
you were facing the back seat. Remember that? Your back was against like the dashboard.
Oh yeah, I was a rebel. No seatbelt.
All right, man. Well, I'm gonna wrap this up. And real quick before we go, so 2 things to ask. One, what would you like to plug? It could be about you. It could be about a friend. It could be about both.
Like the band I'm in?
You could do that.
Okay. Well, I'm in Texas. I'm playing in a original rock band, and it's called Rock Holiday. So like ROC Holiday. It's kind of a spinoff of Doc Holliday. But it's hard. It's not pop punk. It's like hard rock, and we'll see what happens. Like I did a video, and now that things are opening up, we're starting to play shows and everything, and that's what's next on my radar.
It looks like you've done some big stuff with that. I'm gonna sit in this for a second, because you got this video up right now with your playing blindfolded.
Oh, so Rock Holiday is the original band, and I play with the singer in like a cover band, and that's called LC Rocks, and we're pretty much the Austin, Texas, live music capital of the world. We're pretty much the quintessential like 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s like cover band. And I know that sounds kind of cheesy at first, like a cover band, but like the guys in the band are like legit dudes. Like the bass player was in a band called the Motels, and they had a hit in the 80s called Only the Lonely. There's like a video for it. It's like a top 10 Billboard hit, and he was in that band. Our guitar player plays for another band called Dangerous Toys, which was kind of like started to break right around early 90s, and kind of like a hair rock and roll band. It's not goofy. Like we don't wear wigs, and we don't, play spandex, wear spandex and stuff like that. We're just playing our favorite Motley Crue songs and Guns N' Roses and AC/DC, and doing pretty well to where I don't really work like a normal job. I just pretty much play with them, or sub in to other gigs here and there in Austin. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
That's really cool, dude. Seems like you found the thing that you wanted.
Yeah, and it took a while to get here, and I almost was about to move to Dallas.
To where?
Back to, because I moved to Austin from Dallas, and then I got divorced, and so I was going to move back to Dallas because I was playing in a band. It was called Ghoul Town, and we did a lot of fun stuff. Like we did a video with Elvira. We toured Europe, and then we played the UK, like this festival with like Dokken and Extreme. Now Ghoul Town's like a totally different animal. We basically, like, it's a Misfits / Johnny Cash kind of group. And we played with the Misfits and Jerry Only's spin-off band, Electric Frankenstein. And Ghoul Town has like videos and everything. One of our videos has like 10 million views on YouTube.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And we just put out some vinyl, or like the record that I'm on released on vinyl. Have a few 7-inches and CDs, and they got like a pretty good discography before me, and now they got a new drummer. Because classic Rob. I'm in Austin still playing with them, and then it comes down to like they have a show with the Misfits in Dallas, and I was like, oh shit, badass. Well, my band LC Rocks gets a show the same night, and we're playing with Warrant in Austin. Like Warrant, Cherry Pie,
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck. Now, it has to be the same night.
Oh man.
The same night. How am I gonna tell one band, no, sorry, I can't play open for Warrant because I'm going to Dallas to play in this band that's opening for the Misfits, and not opening, like main support. And then and I was like, well, I'm in LC Rocks and I'm living in Austin. I knew this time would come, and this is my job. This is how I pay my rent and everything else. So I had to tell the Ghoul Town guys, like, man, sorry, dudes, but we have a show with Warrant that same night. And he's like, what, Warrant? I'm like, I know. I don't know. If we were playing at like, the Tavern or a one-off kind of thing, or just like a bar show, I would probably do the Misfits gig, probably, no doubt. They'd get a sub, figure it out. I'll come back, still have my seat. But it just happened to be, I was just like, well, if there was ever a sign, like this is it, that I need to stick with the LC Rocks band because we're down here in Austin and it's actually my bread and butter. When Ghoul Town, great band and is done a lot of stuff, but they're not really kind of touring and they're not really as active. They play 2 shows a year around Halloween. And well, our singer is a writer for a book, and he's like one of the top selling writers in the cryptozoology genre.
Okay.
So basically about like Bigfoot and stuff like that. So he's one of the top writers. I know that sounds weird, but it's a full-on genre.
That's
and
fascinating.
It's huge.
Yeah, that's crazy. I love finding out these I say little, but these subcultures that are just massive, and you're like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, and the singer of Ghoul Town, he played in a band with Gigi Allen, or like in Gigi Allen's band for like a little bit. Like, that's fucking punk rock. And he was in a doom metal band called Solitude Arturnus, and they toured with Merciful Fate. He met King Diamond. He lives in North Dallas, and he went to go see Clerks 2 with King Diamond. And there's that song, like, hello, Grandma, like, and he's just sitting there with King Diamond watching Clerks, and it's just kind of surreal kind of thing. So, yeah.
That's wild.
That band's super cool. I had a great time with them, and they have kind of their own genre, and was in that band for about 10 years and toured the U.S. and did a lot of conventions, and, like I said, did a video with Elvira, and
oh, wow.
Did some other cool stuff. And yeah, I just been in, it's nothing. I've always been in 3 bands, always at the same time. And I've always been trying to not do the next best thing, but just kind of
keep it going.
Yeah, just keep it going. It keeps you young. It keeps you Like I said, this is all I know. This is all I know to do.
Well, it's cool that you're able to do that though, man. I mean, like I interviewed Tom Blythe from Goober Patrol. Do you remember that band, Goober Patrol? They were on Fat Records, and they had the video on Cinema Beer Nuts, or the Fat Records video compilation where they were drinking at pubs afterwards and just getting lit the whole time and getting kicked out of bars. Do you
I
remember
think I did see that. Yeah.
this? So he was the bassist, and he's in another band now, and I cannot remember the fucking name, but they're huge. They're this giant band overseas, and he kind of casually mentions it in the interview, which if I did a little bit more research prior to that, I probably would have caught it. He ended up just playing, this band called the Toy Dolls.
Oh wow, yeah. They're like ledge.
Yeah, he's the bassist in that band.
No shit.
Yeah, so it's like the same thing. It's like cool when people find that thing that they love to do, and especially the music side, because as a musician, you're kind of fucked usually for making money. But if you can find a gig where you can pay some bills with it and just keep doing it, it's like, why would you stop?
Yeah, and even in Ghoultown, like our singer, he does probably the same thing you do, like web design or graphics and stuff.
Yeah.
So he's always at home, and what he does is fill orders for overseas and ship CDs and ships T-shirts, and like we have this big overseas following. Where when we did go over to Germany, like our first show was like this festival in Leipzig. And it was so crazy. So we're this band from Texas, and we have like, you have to check it out. Like we have like cowboy hats and like real like Western cowboys from the dead kind of vibe. When we go over to Germany, this is Germany, like what was East Germany. There's people there at that show adapting our culture, with cowboy hats and leather jackets and cowboy boots and writing like Ghoultown on their jacket, like looking like adapting our style. So that was just a kind of an eye-opening thing. I'm like, I'm in like I said, I lived in Germany. I'm in what was Eastern Germany, and there are dudes looking like they're in my band, from Dallas, Texas. So that was crazy.
That's wild.
And then people like heard of us, and because we just have that. You'll have to.
I'm looking it up now. I'm looking at Google right now and see like the photo with you guys in Elvira. And
Yeah.
And just like all the promo pictures and things like that. I got to see this video you're talking about. It's like 10 million views.
It's Drink with the Living Dead.
Drink with the Living
And
Dead. Okay.
it's a 6-minute long song that almost didn't make it on the album because it just didn't really fit the mold. It's 6 minutes long. Like all of our songs are 3.5 minutes. Maybe there's a 5. This one's 6, and it's like
Holy
goes through it.
shit! 17 million views. Jesus.
Yeah, I've gotten residual checks from that.
From that video. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
right. That's how you fucking make money nowadays, is YouTube, which is hilarious.
Well, once you get to the million, then people start looking at you, and then when you get 5, 6, 10, 15, yeah, things start happening. More people start looking at you, and more people with money start looking at you. So
Crazy, dude. That's awesome.
it almost didn't make it on the record. We almost were like, dude, it's a good song, but I just don't think it's gonna fit. We're like, well, fuck it, we'll just put it on. We'll see what happens. And we put it on. Then somebody made the video. They were just like, hey, I'm gonna make this video, cartoon style video. And we're like, okay, go ahead. I mean, we don't have to be in it. Awesome. And so they did it. And then all of a sudden it just took off. I don't know how it took off, but I'm looking at the Elvira video at one point. It had like 60,000 or 90,000. I was like, damn, that's pretty badass. And then our singer was like, Drink with the Living Dead has 3 million. I was like, what? And this was like 5 years ago. And I was like, holy shit.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was, like I said, it was just cool that there was people overseas in Eastern Europe adapting our look. That's got to make you feel like you're doing something or you did something, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, totally. No, I think it's funny that the thing that we all wanted to have the things that we were doing back in the day that we wanted to be the thing, ended up becoming it just came in a different way later on in life, where you were like, why didn't that happen back then? It's like, well, it wasn't really supposed to. It was just supposed to kind of keep you going on your path to do your thing. It's like me with this podcast. Like this just happened out of the blue, and it's not like it's gigantic, but it's fun. And I've gotten to talk to old friends and like huge bands that I'm just giant fans of, and so it's like it's just weird. It comes in a different way later on.
Right. Yeah. And I think, it's one of those things where it's not going to happen when you want it to, but you keep doing it. And all of a sudden you wake up and you're like, oh, shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm playing a show tonight and then playing a private party and then doing a wedding. And, LC Rocks, like we went to Japan. It was us, a hip hop cover band, and then like a more of a current, they do like 21 Pilots and some newer poppier stuff. But we were like the rock band and we played in Japan. And I was like, man, that's pretty cool. Cover band, original, it doesn't matter. Like I'm in Japan and I'm playing my drums for 3 sets, 3 hours. My dad, who was in the Army, joined the Army so he could travel. I could tell him, hey, Dad, I went to Japan. You didn't. Sit down.
Take that, Dad.
Mm-hmm.
Dick. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I did this in a band. You had to join the Army. Yeah. People want my autograph, and you're too busy signing checks. signing out guns and signing out tanks, and I'm like signing autographs.
I'm signing boobs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, cool, man. It's all right. So I'm gonna ask you the final question, and stay on too, because I want to talk. There's a story I want to tell you after this that I cannot tell on this podcast.
Okay.
So last question: what scene ethics do you hold on to this day?
I just support. I was off on Saturday, and my bass player was playing in his other band. I went to go see them. Well, he put me on the list. I didn't pay the $10 cover, but I was there. And I just think the problem is the bands make it with the fans. And I'm a fan of my friends' bands and any other bands. So I just think that's something that is important. You have to go and you have to support no matter what level they're at. And usually, sure, it's fun to go see, Motley Crue or NoFX or Warped Tour. But I also love to see Lane Meyer at some bar on 6th Street on tour. I'd say that's right off the bat. One, just get off your ass and go. I mean, last year was a bit different, but now, nowadays. And two, I guess, like, I think it's almost so much more important now to DIY everything, because now we have the tools to do it. Like my singer has a studio in his house, so we record our whole album at his house, and then we're putting it out. And it's just if I didn't have to rent an 8-track and set up mics and send out, like, get the tapes sent to me and spend hours dubbing one tape to the master to the other tape and putting the stickers on them all ourselves. It's like, if you didn't learn all of that as a kid, then we probably wouldn't have these punk rock ethos or whatever to still do that now, even though now it's just a different game. Now you record, put it on iTunes, and, make your shirts and do that. So I guess I owe a lot to growing up punk rock, I guess, doing it yourself and seeing how far you can get doing it yourself. And hopefully somebody sees that and they can take you to the next level. Whatever level that is. Like, I thought when you guys put out your second CD, I was like, oh shit, dude, here they come with another CD. I'm like, damn it, they're touring with this. Like, they keep. I just kind of thought that somebody in our circle, and I'm sure somebody in your circle. I mean, you got a friend who's in Midtown, or somebody was in. I thought maybe I heard one of your buddies was in Gaslight Anthem or something, or
he was in the band. He was the guy who replaced Chris, and then he quit, and then years later. He kept touring, and there was this band called This Charming Man, but then they became Gaslight, and I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, so I don't know. I guess just keep, support your friends. Don't lose that DIY mentality, because if you can't do it yourself, no one's going to do it for you. And I guess just keep grinding, whether you're a bass player or a podcaster or a drummer, whatever it is you want to do, just fucking do it and fuck everyone else, And if you make money at it and they want to call you a sellout because you're playing an arena or you're playing fucking cover songs, well, fuck you. I'm getting paid to do it, and I'm also in original bands, and I got albums like on my wall, you know. I got vinyl on my wall, like Saturday Supercade and Headstall and Lucy Left Schroeder and Ghoul Town and CDs and stuff like that. Oh, and two, I'm playing in a psychobilly band next week. Just don't lose your punk rockness. I guess.